pissed off on this Friday. Chuck Schumer leading the way to passing this bill, clearing the first hurdle for this continuing resolution, says he won't shut the government down. Like, at what point do you break glass and shut the goddamn government down, Brock?
Wow. I mean, there were
Unreal.
whispers of this 24 hours ago after he got up and said, like, oh, Republicans can't get this done, that he was turning tail, and 10 other Democratic senators went with them. I started with anger. I'm going to probably surprise you with a little bit of a different take on this. I'm actually happy for the clarity. Now,
Ah,
fucking
okay.
know where people stand. And we've been looking for leaders for since we started this podcast. The first thing we led off with, who are going to be the leaders on the left? Well,
Yep.
guess what now? We know definitively one person who is not going to be the leader,
Yes,
and
sir.
that's Chuck Schumer. And he's in a seat that deems him a leader, and he has no following. So we can now X him off the board. But what this
Done.
scenario did was rile up rank and file Democrats, right? You get on
Ooh.
Blue Sky, and that thing was like flames were coming off of my phone, right?
Yes,
Scrolling through Blue
yes.
Sky, and AOC pulled zero punches, as well as many other Democrats in the House. Hakeem Jeffries totally broke with Schumer. Pelosi broke with Schumer. And we got at least a coalescing of where a sense, the wrong outcome, but a group unified underneath this shitty outcome.
Yep.
So that's glass half full ish, but at least we know, right? It's good to know
Right.
where everybody stands. So,
Right.
all right, now we know. And Schumer, fuck him. To me, he wrote his obituary. Primary him. AOC,
Let's
start
go,
the
babe.
bucks right now. Start your campaign now. I know she would have to win a congressional campaign in between because these Senate fuckers get 6 years, right? But
Right.
he's primary. Gillibrand, I didn't see the final vote, but I think she voted with New York's
Angus King,
we're gonna primary him. Fuck
primary
them.
them all.
Primary them all. They think they're in this privileged perch. So that's kind of where I stand. I'm totally aggravated, but I'll take clarity. Now we know
Right.
who's not going to be a part of the movement going forward, and not, it's just gonna be a bizarre scenario to have like the House minority leader, the person up there speaking, and no one gives a shit what he has to say anymore.
I-
Like,
Nope.
done. I
He
don't know. What do you think?
literally wrote his retirement. That was his retirement because he's out of here. Like, I want to come to New York and work for AOC, right, for the next three years,
Going to
three
take
years
3 years. Well,
to
26,
help
I
her
think.
get elected, whatever it takes at this point, because the friggin' house is burning down and you're bringing gasoline. Like, what are we doing? Like, I mean, what are these Democrats thinking that we, the people, are thinking? Right? Did you read the room? Do you not see the Republican response? Right? They're scared to go to their town halls. Now these Democrats should be too, because
Yeah.
there's no room for them in this effort, right? Yo, we didn't elect these people to go and beg for resources for Donald Trump to help make our lives more difficult. Like, what are they think? They want to get rid of the Small Business Administration.
So 2 days ago, Trump calls Schumer a Palestinian,
Right,
deems him no longer a Jew, just in a random
right,
personal attack, right? When being asked about corporate taxes with the head of Ireland, like totally random,
right.
goes after Schumer. 24 hours after that, Schumer pretends like he's going to be voting against this continuing resolution. 24 hours later, he's voting for it. And Donald Trump is out praising Schumer for his good judgment and doing what's right for America. If there's anything that tells you you're on the wrong side of an issue more, is that when Donald Trump is out praising you,
Right.
he's giving you a little slap on the butt. Schumer, that doesn't rattle your thinking about like, oh, do they want to shut down? Like, I mean, you literally made the decision that was in the best interest of Donald Trump,
Right.
and you think that that was good judgment. I mean,
I every time I think we can't sink any lower with this party, and every time I think we can't get any softer, we are softer than Charmin. We refuse to fight this fucking battle, and I don't understand why. We had a federal judge in Northern California say, hold it, all these firings are illegal, not just the VA firings but the firings at every other government agency and Department of Energy, Department of Interior, which includes the Forest Service, right? All these cuts, Social Security, give these people their jobs back. You can't cut people who have been fully successful in their performance reviews for performance. It makes no sense, right? You're siding with the Mad King who doesn't like the people. And we all know he's doing it at the direction of another dictator who absolutely hates the entire West, but nothing Vladimir Putin hates more than the United States of America. And Donald Trump is doing his bidding for him. And now Chuck Schumer and these other Democrats that have sided along with the yes vote are also assisting and complicit.
it's, I mean, let's take it at face value. I know some people took shots that always getting paid, this, that, and there might be something shenanigans going on, but let's take it at face value that he just sat down and Chuck Schumer made a judgment call on what he thought was the best decision. And
Right,
he's making a decision of conscience. Be okay, that can be applauded, but you're so out of touch with where your party is in the moment that yeah, you can vote your conscience, but you can no longer lead the party because there's no one lining up behind you, but
right,
9 other people out of like 43, and then nobody in the House, right?
right,
But and then rank and file that it's in single digit percentages of people that would be agreeing with Schumer at this point if you did a poll. So he just has no following, so he can't be the leader anymore. He can
right,
make that vote. He can make that vote in his conscience, but he can't be in the leader anymore. He has to step aside. And once again, he can't read. He should have read the room earlier because he's not the leader for this moment, right? He certainly recognized that Biden shouldn't be the leader, right? He had the vision to see that someone else couldn't be the leader, in his opinion. Doesn't see it in himself. I mean, he has to step aside.
right,
The Senate can't go on as is with him in charge because there's no fight, and the party wants a fight. Not
right.
only does the Democratic Party want to fight, the Republican rank and file wants a fight. And you see
Yes,
those fucking town halls, that most recent town hall, the guy
yes,
who actually held one after being told he should, give him a
right.
little
Was that
credit for getting
That
in
was
the
North
room. Yeah,
Carolina,
it was in
right?
North Carolina. Guy got eviscerated left and right. He's throwing veterans out of the room. I mean,
It looked ridiculous.
oh, angry
Looked
white people.
ridiculous.
I was laughing watching it. Look at the angry white people. No one can get angrier faster and feel more entitled and be
Woo!
ready to rumble in a room like a
And
group of
expect to
old
be
angry
heard.
white people with the gray goatees right off the bat. I'm like, okay, he's ready to go. This ain't gonna be a quiet one. So how does Chuck Schumer not read that room? The room being America.
Right,
Like everyone's seeing it at the same time and he's reading something differently. And so often, right, it's these old out of touch white guys
all
that
the
just
time.
can't connect to what's going on with the rest of the country. Are they just so entrenched in the status quo? Is it just so has it just worked for them for so long that they can't see that it has to be fought against? Just trying to get to the psychology of the decision making.
Right, right. Check this out. Ezra Levin, co-founder of Indivisible, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
He says that there was organized hundreds of protests right across the country, his group said that nearly 8 in 10 of the group's activists support primary challenges against Senate Dems who cave on the GOP bill. That's like you said, the number is in the single digits. 8 out of 10. I'm willing to say it's 9 out of 10.
Well, it's interesting because that head of the Democratic Party, Ken Martin, who I've been, complaining about being like a
Oh,
Midwest softie, came out with a pretty hard statement today about
right?
where they needed to be on this and also about town halls. So he seemed to be totally contrary. He wasn't direct in his comment, but he seemed to be totally contrary to where Schumer was on this. And if we can segue off Schumer a second and then start thinking about, okay, who are the voices that are being listened to on the Democratic side of the ledger?
Right.
Maybe the message hasn't totally coalesced yet, but it's it's working in that direction. It's right. Bernie clearly doing his barnstorming tour, AOC clearly, and
Yep.
Jasmine who we've been talking about. But the other guy, the new person that has emerged in a major way is
Hmm.
Tim Walz.
Huge.
Walls is going, he's already scheduled to do what we've been talking about, which is go
Right.
out there and go on like a barnstorming tour. Now he's focused on going into red districts. He's the guy who's in his seat as governor. We've been
Right.
saying, where are all the people? Where's the multiracial coalition? And where are all the people who aren't sitting in a job right now? And why don't we have 3, 4, 5 of these going on at the same time? But it has to start somewhere. Started with Bernie. He's dragged in AOC. Now Walz is going on a barnstorming tour. He stepped up and said, hey, this is on me. Me and Kamala didn't get it done. We didn't win. I feel a responsibility that we let you down, which is kind of bullshit, right? But, I respect it. That's a sports mentality. He's taking ownership of
Sure.
the loss and saying, okay, now I'm coming back in the fight.
Right. But what dragged him back into the fight, brah? I saw an interview with him 2 nights ago where he said, hey, listen, what do you want us to do with all these education kids? For you folks that remember when I was on the campaign trail to run for the vice presidency, my son Gus has special needs. And now the programs that you are cutting, the Doji bros are taking an axe to, directly affects my household. Now, was that his only motivation? Probably not. But you know what? It is awful interesting that it had to hit home. And
Hit
this is what
home.
we've been talking about for white households. When are you going to get involved? When it hits your household and the ones you love most, right? And that's my problem with Tim Walz right now.
Okay.
Now I'm 110% behind him, right? Because I get it. I get it. And he's not only fighting for his household, he's fighting for all those parents of children with special needs. Because remember, I told you those cuts were going to happen fast and people were going to feel them very quickly. And they're feeling them now because those programs are not being funded. Think about it. You've got those reduced lunch programs, right? The summer programs are coming up where you can go to your neighborhood elementary school and middle school and get lunches. Who do you think is paying for that? Those are federally funded programs. So, all these programs that are happening now that are hitting us in the mouth, right? We need every single elected Democrat and every single person in this country that loves democracy to get under this tent, the multiracial, multicultural, multi-ethnic coalition we've been screaming about needs to come together and get to these town halls, get to the streets, get to the Capitol. We need a march on Washington like we've never seen before.
Yeah, I love that Walls is getting out there, and I'll cut up a little bit
Yeah,
more slack because his son's past the age of where he's in
right,
school anymore, I'm pretty sure. So I think he was maybe just trying to connect to the issue because it doesn't affect him personally anymore. But I get
right,
it. He probably hits home, of course, closer. But he was also just a public school teacher, as was his wife. So I'm sure in their household, they're huge supporters of the DOE
right,
in
right,
general. But I
right.
wish it wasn't just Tim Walz. I wish it was Tim Walz and Keisha Lance Bottoms. I wish it was Tim
Exactly.
Walz and like a Deborah Hyland. I wish it was Tim Walz, maybe with a Jasmine Crockett. I don't
Right.
think she needs him. I think she could go do her own. Same way I feel about AOC. But I want to see something cross cultural, cross racial, and I want to hit on more than just necessarily one topic. Maybe even a
Right.
Harry Dunn, because, well, was he a veteran? We'll get some, we'll get some veterans in the mix as well.
But Harry Dunn,
But
Harry Dunn, he had a pretty good campaign going,
yeah,
right? I hate that he lost, but Harry Dunn knows how to get out there and work the room,
yeah, I
and
would have liked,
people
yeah.
resonate with his story.
Yeah, I love Harry Dunn. So I thought maybe he could. So I don't want just Tim Walz barnstorming alone. I wish he'd take a cue from what just Bernie just did in roping in AOC and saying, "Hey, let's tag team this. Let's
Right,
come at it from a different angle. Let's show a broader face so that we draw broader faces in the room." Right? We don't
right,
want to just go to red districts and see a whole bunch of white guys with the goatees and who are angry because they just had something taken away for the first
right,
time in their lives, right?
right,
Versus I want to see mixed rooms, right? We got to
right,
go beyond just the angry white people now. We gotta show a unified group, and then get to a unified message, right? And I
right.
just think we'll get to a unified message better if we're showing, kind of unified speakership.
I
So
mean, Trump,
but there's baby steps. These are directionally positive, but it's not
exactly.
quite where we think it needs to be.
Right. But the message is simple now, right? Trump is bad for everybody, right? Trump
Yeah.
is bad for all of our American households unless you're in the top 1%, and then you're not feeling it. What was the figure last week? His billionaire buddies that attended his inauguration had lost $210
Yeah.
billion.
Yeah.
Where are
Yeah.
they going to make it up? Well, I would say that Elon is going to make it up off the backs of American taxpayers. He's already making $8 million a day. Whatever he makes off us goes right back to supplant what he lost
Yeah, well,
on
if,
his
if they
Tesla stock.
privatize Social Security, there's a lot of money to be made in
Oh, yeah.
privatizing, government, what are currently government institutions. It was
Right.
interesting. Another data point that came out today, like consumer sentiment down 10%
Ugh,
from February to March. I mean, that is a huge drop. And that goes beyond people just worried about their pocketbooks. That's just a
right.
general negative
Right.
feeling about society.
Right. Right. And you tell me that when Trump held that meeting of when Schumer held that meeting of Senate Dems, he didn't hear in that room, nobody in that room said, "No, Chuck, we want to fight." I can't believe nobody stood up and said, "What the fuck, Chuck? Like, this is not what we're doing. This is not what my constituents want." Right? I know Raphael Warnock didn't say, "Well, okay, let's go, Chuck." I know John Ossoff didn't say that. We're down here in the good old South. We've already got it hard enough living in a red state. Crime, punishment, all the stuff that we deal with down here, as Black folk are constantly receiving longer and more harsh sentences in the justice system. We've got a justice system in Washington, the DOJ, that is trying to give Mel Gibson his gun back. Just because he slapped around his wife a few times doesn't mean he can't have a gun. What, like, what, and this is the thing that's infuriating to Black folks. Like, the law always works against us, it always works for white America. And this is part of what Schumer is kowtowing to,
Yeah,
right? All
I
these
mean, there
things.
had to be other people in the room. But what I found interesting,
Yes.
and what I've also found interesting that I'm going to have to say, in essence, I was wrong on, is that, I kept always saying, oh, Americans aren't going to care about anything foreign policy because it doesn't affect them directly, right? It's all going to be only the domestic issues that are going to rile people up. But if you start listening like to the longer versions of these town halls and sit through
Yep.
not just some snippets, but listen to a lot of the commentary, is white America very pissed off the way we're quote treating the world, like
Yep.
the way the 51st state thing with Canada pissing people off. Like, what is this bullshit? Like,
Right.
we love
Right.
Canada. What are we talking about? Why are we beating up on Canada? They're like our best friend. Like,
Right.
we love Zelensky. What do you mean we're not defending Zelensky? What are we being the bullies for and quote picking on a guy when he's down or needs our help? That has really resonated, maybe with veterans particularly, but it seems to have trickled on through those angry white crowds
Yep.
in those MAGA mobs. It hasn't just been about their own pocketbook, which I thought no one was going to get riled up till it hit their own pocketbook. So I'm a little pleasantly surprised.
Brock, me and my family today been texting back and forth about Trump asking his military people to draw up invasion plans for Panama.
Yeah,
What is that? You're
I
not
mean,
getting the canal, pal. It ain't happening. It ain't happening. And what did Panama do to you? Like, where is all this bullshit
we're
coming from?
drawing guns. Can you imagine we send some ships down there and we have troops coming off in like what a little boat storming the beach and like
Right,
guns ablazing? And what are we gonna do? We're gonna gun down a bunch of Panamanians and like
right,
just have the videotape of like dead bodies while
right.
what one of our with an American
Unarmed
boat sailing
bodies.
through the canal
Unarmed bodies.
unarmed. I mean, is that really what we're gonna do? We're just declaring war on Panama? Like
Right,
that's where you get into the Mad King thing, right? Like
right,
now you just have someone who is psychotic
right. Right.
in
And
in
he's
charge.
unwell. We already know he's
Yeah, he's
unwell.
psychotic. He's
He's
lost.
not mentally fit. Yeah. He shouldn't be holding the office. I mean, when we talk about 25th Amendment, now it's the time. Now is the time because this guy has basically lost it. Like these
But
ideas make no sense to anyone, even the people around him. The Scaramucci clip the other day on YouTube was so telling. And I mean, he was just like warning people, don't get anywhere near this guy. You don't want to be in his orbit because everything he touches dies. And we are seeing that in real time.
well, we're gonna get to the day where he one of these crazy rants or social, truth social posts becomes like an order, right? So it's Pete Hegseth, another fucking psycho, right? But at least a younger guy who maybe like has mental capacity in place. We might not like it where his mind goes, but like he's of sound mind and body, right?
Right.
Is he
Allegedly.
gonna is he gonna be like, okay, this is a direct order from my commander in chief, and I'm storming the beaches of Panama? Because supposedly they've been asked to draw up plans. Well, that's
Right.
step one. Now you have the plan in place. What happens when Trump sits in a cabinet meeting and says, let's go? We're taking
Yeah.
the canal.
Right.
Like it's an act
What
of
is that?
war. It's illegal because we haven't declared war. So they have to drum up a fake reason, right?
Right.
They'll blame it on fentanyl, right? All of a
Right.
sudden there'll be, hidden fentanyl plants underneath the canals. I mean, these are in essence illegal orders.
Right.
Are they going to be adhered to? Like now
And
it
then
becomes all constitutional.
and that'll be the end of NATO. Right? NATO will be gone. NATO's not going to support an invasion of, sovereign territory for what? For monetary gain? Like
There's
you
no
can't you
fucking
can't
way.
justify this any way in the world eye.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
I mean, there's no sense
I
behind
don't
it
know if NATO as we knew it exists anyway. It might
anyway.
just
Right.
exist on paper. It
Right.
hasn't been put to the test yet. We may have already shattered it, but we don't know it yet.
Right.
But something like that, we would find out. It's interesting. Canada's talking about, I think, joining the EU and or NATO. Maybe, but
Right.
I mean, I think it was NATO. I mean, the craziness of our leader is triggering like all kinds of unintended consequences throughout the world. And the world
Yep.
order is already shifting underneath our feet. It's been what, 52 days, 53
52
days,
days. Feels like
52?
537.
But
Feels
he's
like
getting
March
worse. He's
57
getting crazier.
by the day.
The statements are getting more bizarre and more we're butting up against things that are blatantly, if not borderline, and then certainly blatantly unconstitutional. Some things the courts can push back on, like the
Right.
firings,
Right.
but some things, when it becomes international and becomes use of force, there's
Right.
no one to push back on it except the military themselves, right?
Right.
They're Congress can shout and
And,
scream
and
and no one's going to give a shit.
And what he'll do is just keep firing people until he gets somebody that will follow his stupid ass orders. I mean, we still got the markets tanking. What was it, down another 500 points yesterday? Where are we today? Uh,
I didn't even look at the
yeah,
end of the day
it's up a
today.
percentage point. But,
Uh,
I mean, the guy is purposely tanking the economy. Like, who does? He's been obviously told to do. Brock, there's too much has gone on in too little time to feel like this wasn't a to-do list that was handed to him, and he's basically going down the list, checking shit off, right?
I don't think
And
he
my
makes the
question is,
connection. He may be told to do things for certain reasons, but I'm not a believer that he's playing 4D chess and has some master plan. Like, I
no,
think this is like a
no,
toddler coming around the room, just knocking everything over. And
right,
then when they're done, it's like, oh shit, a mess has been made. So I think he's just
right,
making a mess. I don't think like he knows or thinks that the market's going to go down when he does this shit. Like, he's so delusional. He thinks he's so smart and so, genius, that he thinks he's gonna win all the time, right?
right,
Like
right,
everything he does is gonna work out, and when it doesn't, he just lies and pretends like it did, right? Like that's the mental craziness that we live
right.
in. But I
All
think
right,
that
let's,
he thought winning these tariff wars was truly gonna make him look like some strong leader.
yeah,
What everyone
not,
else knows is no one wins these, and this is idiotic.
right.
And but I don't think he knows.
He has no clue.
I just don't give him the credit for knowing. I think he's an imbecile and a maniac and a psychopath and a narcissist. Like, you've rolled so many
Ugh,
factors, and he's in mental decline. Like,
right,
we're literally, you couldn't write, this could be a Game of Thrones. Like, this is if
right,
King Joffrey was also like, a maniac, or
right.
instead
Yeah,
of just
yeah,
devious.
yeah. We need somebody to slide him some wine with a little bit
Yeah.
of something, something in it, you know?
Well, I don't know. So where do we go from here? So tomorrow the government stays open, and 10 senators cheer themselves for
Right.
having sided with the Republicans. We have
Well,
a
hopefully, okay, so we already got protests in Trump Tower, right? For Mahmoud Khalil, right? Good thing.
fantastic protest. By the way, just we'll
Very
get
nice.
personal. Very, very proud of
Nicely done.
Jewish brethren for getting out there in support of a pro-Palestinian guy, saying, do not pin this fucking shit on fascism shit on us.
Right.
We're,
Right.
actually stepping up and saying he has the right to this free speech in this country,
Exactly.
and we're anti-fascist before anything else. So I thought that was an
Exactly.
impressive congregation
And
and
the
statement that was
Krasenstein,
made.
even the Brian Krasenstein, I believe, posted, uh, one of the brothers posted, we believe in free speech for everyone,
Yeah,
right?
even if we don't
So,
like it, even if we
yeah,
don't even if we
even if we
disagree with
don't
it,
agree.
aren't happy with it, right to say it.
Exactly.
Right to say it is bigger than what is being said.
And that's why Zuckerberg, Bezos, and Musk are so dangerous, because they are trying to take that away, not just from Palestinian, pro-Palestinian causes, not just from pro-African American causes, but from all causes. They don't want anybody who speaks against the government or against their agenda to be heard. And that is not what this country is about. That is not what this country was founded on. And the founding fathers knew that a king was not right for this republic. And that's why they put all these safeguards in, the Constitution. But, the courts are holding. It's just whether or not these rulings can be enforced. So that's where we are now. Now we need Congress to get up off their asses, on the blue side of the ledger, and start to fight back with everything they've got, everything in the toolbox, every little inane little resolution and law and constitutional procedure, anything that we can touch and use to battle against this nonsense. I'm still enamored at the numbers of people who support this clown. But all the polling is showing, who has a favorable opinion of Vladimir Putin? Negative 81%. 8 out of 10 Americans can't stand Vladimir Putin. 8% have a positive approval of Vladimir Putin. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? I mean, I'll never understand MAGA. I'll never understand that
No,
mentality. It
I
makes
mean,
no sense,
it's
So where are we going? Let's find something, a positive note
racism.
to
Okay,
end on.
racism's at the core. Okay, of
Right,
MAGA. They can
Sure.
tie it in with
Sure.
religion, and they've been able to pull the Christo-fascism in with it. But at the core, it's and then sometimes it bubbles up even higher into some master race type of shit, right? Where that's where then they even layer some anti-Semitism in there, and they get you can start getting the Nazi level shit where
Right.
master race, where they want to have their private cities that only certain people live in, and that's what it's. We're tearing down the government, and only a certain elites run everything and have all the money, and basically have the stay over how society runs. So like that's
Right.
the core, and then it stacks up on top of itself. But if we want to look at something positive, okay, Hakeem Jeffries got his side of the ledger. Everyone in lockstep. You got every vote on the Democratic side of the ledger, and they're riled up and pissed that
Pissed.
the Senate
Yep.
let them down.
Right.
So even the moderate bullshit, middle of the road, problem solver, mini MAGA light types on the Democratic side who I worry about and can't stand because I think they add no value to America, right? And
Right.
and get stand in the way of progress. We're all in line for this vote and are all riled up and pissed off about it that
Yep.
Schumer and his gang of 10, kind of kneecapped them. So
Yep.
maybe that is going to trigger a new wave of unity on the left. We see a couple leaders bubbling up. I don't know if it's good or bad that Buttigieg is going to run for president instead of Senate. I mean, it makes sense. That's what I would probably do if I were him. But sometimes I worry when people
Yep.
sort of already announce their candidacy for president that they already start playing conservative, right? They already start
Right.
playing the game for 4 years out, and they're not out there shooting
Right.
from the hip, really firing aggressively, which is what I think we need now.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so maybe a couple other
How
leaders
about Buttigieg and
emerge.
Beto?
What's that?
Buttigieg and Beto as a ticket down, looking down the road. I love Mayor Pete, man. I love him. I don't know if America is ready for him, but that man understands the game. He
Very
understands the
smart.
game and he's incredibly smart. And he gave up his time, talent, and treasure to serve this country,
Yeah,
right?
and did a
He
good
could have been
job.
doing a
He's
lot of
just good.
things.
He's good at delivering a very, very digestible message, right?
Yes.
He can say a lot in few words, the sort of shit that people like remember. And like
Right.
that's like he has a talent like maybe no one else had, right? There's better orators
Right.
than him, there's more fiery types than him, but he's just great at cutting through an issue and really, really smartly delivering it in a way that, people just get it and,
Right.
tend to agree
Somewhat
with them.
Obama-ish.
Yeah, but Obama was also able to give that the speech like that
Right.
could just inspire. I don't know if and even Kamala had an element of that. I don't know if Pete has that talent, but I mean, it's winnable for him. But I
Yeah.
just worry that when he's already thinking there, that we kind of lose him for the moment, right?
Right.
As he's
And he's
planning
needed in the
something
moment.
down the road, and 4 years feels like an eternity, and the whole thing may be lost by then. So
Yeah.
I'm looking for the people that are the here and now types that are
Right.
like going to really make some noise right here, right now.
Right.
Gavin Newsom has carved himself out of that equation by hanging out with Steve Bannon. So certain people have sort of carved themselves out. Others,
Yep.
it leaves room for others to include themselves in it. I'm still
Right.
waiting for Wes Moore to make some more noise too. I mean, because
Yeah.
I would prefer him on the ticket over Beto. Um,
That's a
and
that's that's a nice combo too, but we can talk about that later. Right now, the
yeah,
moment is what matters, like you
yeah,
said.
with the moment now. So who's going to get out there now? I mean, I just can't. I'm just surprised at all seeing the success of Bernie and the crowds he's drawing. And it obviously inspired Walls to get out there, and it's obviously triggered the Democratic that Ken Martin guy to be like, we got to do more of this shit, And I'm just surprised that
Right.
they're not soliciting more members to do more of this. Why is just Tim
Yeah.
Walls tapped for this? Like,
Well,
why
we're
aren't
going
there
to
other
keep hammering them.
discussions?
Yeah, let's keep hammering them. That's where we're going. We're still looking for leadership, somebody to emerge. Hopefully we're going to get some action this weekend. This weekend, like no Democratic elected official's phone should not be ringing off the hook. I mean, we should be playing the phone game on down the line to make sure that we have coalesced and we are hitting the road and hitting the streets, joining these independent organizations that are organizing protests and getting in the streets to let them know the Mad King will be stopped.
Yeah, there
Because
should be
I
a
think
lot of
we have the
town.
numbers.
Yeah.
We have
Should
the
be a
numbers.
lot of town hall. I mean, there should be a lot of in-person town halls,
Town
like
halls.
not,
Yep.
and they should be videoing all of them.
Yep.
Like Democrats should be videoing them and using those clips of angry Republican voters,
Yep.
right? And of course now we know we're going to go into some Republican districts as well. But like, yeah, there's an anger out there. Let's keep fueling that anger and to transition it into action.
Yes. Absolutely, my friend. All right, buddy. Another
Okay.
another contentious day. I'm gonna go take a blood pressure pill just to kind of chill just for a minute.
I didn't need my blanket today. Nice and warm in the Northeast today.
There you go. There you go. That's your blessing.
Spring day today. All right. Yeah,
Amen.
we'll watch it closely. All right, Mike. Mark, always a pleasure.
All right, same here. We'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Keep hope
Bye.
alive.